So she gave me a C- on the coloring test, a C-. Hey there, ArchiveSocial. I'm Neil Travel with ArchiveSocial and the ArchiveSocial podcast. We're back at it here in the month of January 2017. Thanks for joining us. And we were right in the middle of discussing schools and school systems and reflecting on some of our own personal memories. We're really talking about the use of social media in school districts, a really strong emerging trend. And in fact, today as a staff, we've been focusing on a particular case study that came out of the Frederick County Public School System. Now, before we dive into this case study, I want to reiterate that we don't criticize the school system, we don't criticize the staff. This is a hairy situation and a lot to learn from it. So let's talk about what we've learned. And for our audience, why don't we recap the situation? Basically, the Frederick County Public School System had hired a new web coordinator running their social media, and she had taken a bit of an edgy approach to how she was responding to tweets. And in particular, there was a recent tweet from a student asking the school system to have the schools closed tomorrow, except that he misspelled the word tomorrow. Now, when the school system responded, and the woman behind it, Ms. Katie Nash, when she responded, she actually decided to be a little snarky and said, well, how would you learn how to spell the word tomorrow then? And this set off a bit of a controversy and a discussion. Ultimately, the school system decided this was too edgy. They decided to fire Ms. Nash. So again, sticky situation. What have we learned? And I'd like to start with, there was a specific tone behind that response. Is that kind of tone appropriate for a school district?
I think you really have to know your audience and you have to know who the stakeholders are. I mean, authenticity is everything on social media, and you got to speak truly from yourself to who you're talking to. But in this case, I think it was a big leap from where they had been. So finding the right tone that works for you and for your stakeholders is key. And you know, it can be done.
You're right that it can be done, and you have to establish that tone. And we've seen school systems like Wake County Public Schools build a social media presence over time and actually use the exact kind of humor that she was using successfully. So it can be done. What else have we learned?
Well, it seems like training really wasn't there, considering that she was new in her role. May needed more guidance. At a minimum, maybe a feedback loop between her and her boss. Perhaps have her tweets pre-approved by her boss until they feel more comfortable to kind of let her go and do her own thing.
Absolutely. This is a new position. You need the training, first of all, and also you need to get comfortable, again, with things like tone. And I love the idea of her pre-approving some of those first responses to see how her management will react before it actually going out. And that's a key point, not only knowing your audience, but knowing your stakeholders, knowing how your boss would react. And so how do you get your stakeholders internally comfortable with social media, because it's such a risk-averse environment?
Yeah, just like you mentioned, Wake County Schools, possibly sharing examples of other similar school districts ahead of time, but at least set the expectation on tone and approach, then maybe instituting like a reporting process to show how things are working over time, and then at least the higher-ups might have been okay if they saw the same positive response.
Right, so there was a way to set this up and see it through, and perhaps it could have been a more successful outcome for both parties. But here we are, Nash was let go, and one interesting thing is that the school district decided to go ahead and delete her tweets. They weren't comfortable with them, and after the fact they deleted them, and okay, we're an archiving company, you can hear the reaction, so why is that a bad idea?
Well, I mean, you have to keep records of these things, because when you delete the tweets, there's a couple things that are happening. Number one, there are public record laws that require that you have these official communications recorded and kept for the law, so everyone can see them. Number two, when you do that, you open yourself up to all kinds of risk, including, you know, there's numerous legal situations you could get into. If you don't have a record of the conversation and your side of the story, it becomes hearsay instead of the facts of what happened.
Really well said. Does anybody have anything else to add?
Yeah, I got a question. I was looking at the schedule for next week. Are we still doing final reports, or are they still doing tomorrow?